introduce, my name is Brian Rutz. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have about 11 years of coaching experience. I mean, I've been a sports junkie ever since I remember, since I was born, probably a lot like everybody in this room, the children that you work with. I've had a great coaching experience. We're going to talk a lot about double goal coaching today, and I feel like I've been on the double goal coach side and the negative side where maybe I wasn't a double goal coach. People that are in this room that feel like you may be criticized at all, don't think that at all. I think I have both sides coming through here. So I feel like I can really help give knowledge that way. And then also what brought me to PCA, like I said, I've seen the negative sides of coaching. I've seen the positive sides of coaching. I actually went into sports psychology because of this. And really interested in people's performance and things like that. So that's what brought me here, and that's why I'm here to help you guys and kind of communicate a little bit more. So if you have questions, please let me know. But before we get into all the information, first we're going to need everybody to sign in for today's workshop. So what you do, everybody, take out your smartphones and text the numbers or text to 650-763-2405. Make sure you include all the following, which is pound sign and your phone number. Make sure you put no spaces between the pound sign and the number. First and last name and your email address. This is all information. It's important to help check you guys in to make sure that you attended. And this is how you guys get certified for your certificate through PCA. As well as it helps us line up on more information that we can give you as time goes on. As we move into things, double goal coaching, I first want to ask everybody in attendance, has anybody here been to a workshop before?
Nope.
No? Okay. Have you guys heard of PCA before?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Okay. Awesome. So let's give a little background information on PCA. It was founded in 1998 in a Stanford classroom. Tim Thompson, who is a sports psychologist, founded the program and wanted to develop it to help provide better places for coaches and youth and athletes to kind of help develop them and help them grow. Who PCA is, I mean, yearly we reach out to about 80,000 coaches, or we train about 80,000 coaches. Because we train those coaches, we end up reaching over 3.3 million youth. We've held 2,500 live workshops, and our website gets millions of hits per year. So I just want to make sure evident that as we start this and we get into this is a workshop and it's not a lecture. So don't feel that I'm going to sit here and talk to you. If you guys want to raise your hand and talk, communicate, things that are on your mind, please jump in. I don't want to bore everybody tonight. I know you guys are stressful lives and you're busy, so just please jump in. Let's make this entertaining as fun as we can. So, positive coaching. I want to ask everybody in attendance, what does this phrase mean to you? Kelly,
to me, I would say positive coaching is when a coach is really encouraging and supportive of the athletes and really cares about them as people and just has fun out there at practice.
Okay, awesome. Ruben, how about yourself?
Two things came to mind for me. One is along the lines of what Kelly said, which is focusing on the bright side, the positive, the good stuff, focusing on that side. And then two is being a good role model for your players as to how they should conduct themselves as athletes.
Awesome. Those are two great answers. There's one more thing I kind of want to ask, or maybe a sub question is, who in this room enjoys to win? Kelly, do you enjoy winning?
I do enjoy winning, yes.
Ruben, do you enjoy winning?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So I just want to make the point. I know there's a lot of things that go around with positive coaching where you think we're going to give everybody trophies and things like that. That's not the point here. What we have here is, we have data that proves that positive coaches and positive leaders that can create a positive atmosphere can help players be successful and perform at the best. It can help teams win and be successful. So that's really a big emphasis of what positive coaching does. Not only does it provide a great environment, it gives opportunities for teams to win and be successful. Awesome. So the power of positive. There is a quote on this slide by Dr. Barbara Fredrickson that, I kind of hits home for me. As I talked about, I've been on the negative side of double goal coaching in my time. The quote is, there's a perception that the best way to get what you want out of employees or players is by negativity or threats, but negativity doesn't work as well as positivity. And why I talk about that, I remember my first coaching experience, I was going down to Kansas. I was young, just out of college. I was a graduate assistant. My coach there, his favorite quote is that fear is a great motivator. Okay. So as he's fear, he was an individual that was probably more on the negative side, where if somebody did something wrong, made a mistake, he would make people feel really bad about it. And it's crazy to see how negativity can just go right through a whole organization. So as a young coach, I thought that was the way to coach. So what did I do? I kind of just jumped on board and thought, okay, let's just be negative. And what really struck me, coaching college athletes, we would lose players like half the team every would transfer out. And I finally had a conversation with one player, and he's just like, the game's not fun anymore. And it really struck me in my heart because I'm like, it is really just a game. This should be something people enjoy, whether it's youth or college athletes or professional athletes. So that's where it comes into the next part of just positive emotions are especially contagious, and leaders' positive emotions are more contagious than anyone else's. So I think the coaching situation I'm in now is a lot of our teams are less talented than a lot of other teams that I've been a part of. But with our positivity, we are very successful. So these two quotes are, very meaningful, and I think, they're true to what they say. As we move on to the next slide, this SI article came out in 2015. I think it was right after the Mike Rice incident where the coach was throwing basketballs off his players and things like that. And the positivity in coaching is just, it gives players the chance to be successful. If they don't have to worry about that they're getting yelled at for everything they do, their performance improves. To back PCA up, we have coaches, players that come in and back it up. And these are very successful coaches. Brad Stevens is one of my idols. I've been watching since he was Butler, and I think the great thing about Brad Stevens is the year he went to the national championship, he never got a technical, which is shocking in the day and age of coaching because so many coaches want to sit in on the sideline, jump around and scream. And for some reason, people think that's the way it's supposed to be and that's acceptable. I read a great article the other day written by Brandon Irwin who talked about if you want to be a great motivator, then just shut up. And it shows that people that are coaches that don't scream, that are just quieter, the athlete becomes more successful because they have to focus less on why this person is screaming at me and gives them an opportunity to kind of perform their ability. Other great players.
Brian, question: Who said that if you want to motivate, just shut up? Who
it was an article or a research project done by Brandon Irwin.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, it's like if you want to be a good motivator, just shut up already. So it's a nice little article, and it shows good points. I mean, so many coaches are just yelling, and it just doesn't motivate people, it distracts kids, and it takes the fun away. So, but Brad Stevens isn't the only one. I mean, Steve Kerr, I'm a huge fan as well. If you watch NBA games, when they videotape the huddle, he's not talking anything about skill-wise. He's just saying, reaffirming guys, hey, I love the energy that you bring in, and I love your attitude right now, and that's what's making us successful. So as we move on, we talk about what can negativity or what does negativity do. And like we talked about before, it just distracts you from your task. I think the research shows that when athletes are out there and they have a negative coach, their mindset becomes, I have to make this individual happy and perform at my best, make them happy, where you can't focus on just performing and being loose and having that mindset where I trust my skill and go out there and perform. So that's what, negativity not only just hampers the fun out of it, it hampers the performance for the youth as well. So I like to ask everybody, I mean, do you guys agree with the question? I mean, Ruben, do you feel that positive works better and that negativity can be a distraction?
Yes, I do agree with that.
Do you have a reason why?
Just from experience and, you know, like what you said, the story of the player that told you they wanted to transfer because it's, you know, it's not fun anymore. You know, I think negativity can lead us in that direction, take the fun out of it. I mean,
yeah,
you know, and I think, but more specifically, a question is, does negativity distract? And yeah, I mean, I have a hard time focusing on what I'm supposed to do when I'm getting yelled at or people are being negative with me. So I can personalize that one.
Yeah, definitely. Kelly, how about yourself? What do you believe if positivity works and if negativity is distracting?
I definitely think it works. I see my team, I coach 12 and under girls, and if I need them, I yell for even just to get a harsh voice, like, all right, everybody come on over. If I'm not smiling, like I'll get the girls that like they're don't run over fast. But if I seem like, okay, guys, come on over, I'm smiling, they like right over to me. It's crazy. Even something that simple.
Definitely. And then if I could re-ask Kelly, why do you think there is so much negativity in sports? I know you've been around in the sports world for a while. Why do you believe there's so much negativity?
I think a lot of it has exactly what you said, that, you know, I was coached with a lot of negativity. Coaches, that's how they motivated us back then. And so that's what a lot of coaches do now. And I think the other part is just that pressure to win, even at the young development. For some reason, winning is the ultimate goal. That puts pressure on people to win no matter what.
Ruben, how about you? Why do you believe there's so much negativity in sports?
Well, in addition to what Kelly said, I think there's a lot of reasons. One, like for coaches, I think some coaches aren't comfortable being positive. It's like, you know, it's not my personality, and, you know, saying, giving people praise. And, you know, some of us men say to tell somebody I love you. You know, it's like, ew, you know, it makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely agree with you guys. It's just, you know, being around the coaching world, and some coaches don't know how to give positive praise because they probably weren't experienced to it. You know, sometimes I just think it's the society we live in these days. You know, it's a big summertime right now. So in summer, there's summer basketball, AAU sports. And I feel like coaches just believe that it's the way it's supposed to be sometimes, is to be the one that's drawing the attention, to be negative. That if you're going to be hard on your athletes, it's going to make them tougher in the long run, where they don't really understand like what they're doing is probably more damaging as we talk about life focus and life skills. So that's how we move into our next slide. We're discussing why are we here. You know, PCA's vision is to help kind of combat against the negativity and get people to understand that if we can use more positivity, we can create better athletes, and better athletes makes better people. The vision has been developed. I mean, there's so much research out there from sports psychologists that just discuss that how positivity can help improve performance. It can turn, you know, coaches in from coaching sports to coaching life. It's just all around benefits society a lot better, you know, if we're kind of working on PCA's vision. So as we get in and move along, just remember that sometimes, like we talked about in society, it may be against being positive or bringing that positive energy, maybe look down, or you may be breaking a trend with a team or anything like that. Just remember you have support from PCA. Everybody received the book, The Power of Double Goal Coaching. You'll receive emails now that we have your email address. You can use our website. Definitely use our support we're providing here. As things change, you know, there's always new methods that come up to teach positivity. You know, PCA will be on that, and we can continue to mail that out to you guys to keep you prepared. Awesome. So moving forward, I mean, Kelly, what do you think makes a great experience for kids? What's so great about sports that can help benefit them?
I think it's really simple. I think if the kids are having fun with their friends, it'll be a great youth sports experience.
Awesome. Ruben, you still on? Awesome.
Hello. He said that he thinks kids need they need good, positive role models as coaches to have a good youth sports experience. That was Ruben's answer.
That's a great answer, Ruben and Kelly. Yeah, I definitely agree. As I pull into my sports psychology and kind of what I've studied of what kind of drives individuals, when you talk about connection, being able to improve, and having that option where it's okay to improve, as well as having integrity, so you have your values. These are three very important things that kind of make it psychologically just satisfying for an individual. So which that benefits the athletes if they're connected to the sport. If they feel that they're improving and they're gaining knowledge, and they're doing it under their values, it brings a whole great experience that can be brought to the athlete. And even if they're just focusing on these things, they're not focusing on winning, but they bring that energy every day, as we'll further on talk about in other principles of PCA. You bring that energy, your success starts to build. So Kelly, if I could ask you, how do you think your players can get these experiences?
How do I think they can get?
If they have it, what do you think is going to happen?
I think they're going to win. I think they will win more. I think they're going to be more successful as a team and as individuals.
Awesome. And Ruben, how do you think what's going to happen when your players get these three principles here or connections?
Yeah, I think, like Kelly, I think they'll play better and win more. I think they'll improve more. And I think they'll enjoy it more.
Awesome. Yeah, as we talked about a little bit, as those three things are up, we talked about the PCA's coaching model, which is connected, improving, integrity. As we go on through our principles, we talk about the emotional tank, the elm tree of mastery, and honoring the game. So all of these three things, we'll go further in as we go through this workshop. We'll kind of explain what it can be for a meaningful athlete experience. Before we jump on to the next slide, which is going to be a video by Herm Edwards, I actually kind of want you as coaches to look at these three things: connected, improving, and integrity, and see how you see yourself. Why do you coach? What connects you to coaching? Where do you think you can improve your coaching? And kind of what are your values in coaching? And I think it'll kind of help us moving forward as we look into the next slide and beyond. Just give me a thumbs up once you have those three things. Awesome. The next slide is from Coach Edwards, who's now an Arizona coach at Arizona State. The video is doing. He did this interview on ESPN. It's a great video, and there's a great quote in it, which we will touch on after the video. I'm assuming we watch the video then and move on.
Yeah, you can just pretend we watched it.
Okay. So I think the great thing about Herm Edwards, he's obviously a great speaker, but one of the greatest quotes, great quote that I think he comes out of this video is, when the book of your life is written, will it say that you made a difference? And I think as we talk about, it's important for athletes to have meaningful experience. It's also important for our coaches to have it as well. So as we go back to the three things I touched on, it's important for coaches to be connected to coaching so they can provide these positive experience. If they know that they have to improve on something in their coaching field, they're not going to expect their athletes to be perfect. And when it comes to integrity, it's important that you have your own values as well. It provides the opportunity to teach these athletes. So if we can touch on that, Kelly, why do you coach? What connects you to coaching, youth?
I just, I've been connected to coaching because I've been coaching my own kids. And so, but I think what's kept me in coaching is that I've seen the difference in positive coaching. I wasn't always the most positive coach when I started. And I've seen over the last, 17 years of coaching, probably only in the last 10, that I've really focused on being a positive coach. And I can just see the difference in the players, the whole culture, the whole team. I'm enjoying it a lot more. And I just feel like there's momentum started. And I'm afraid if I stop now, the momentum's going to slow down. So it's starting to permeate through the league that I've been coaching in, and I'm noticing a big difference.
So it sounds like you've been making improvements, but what's something you feel like you can continue to improve on in your coaching experiences?
I think for me, the honoring the game part, I feel like I don't have a lot of time to focus on some of the, the little tiny respectful things. If the kids are, if I'm trying to talk and the kids are talking over me, or if they make a comment about the other team or something like that, like I try to stop them when they do, but I feel like that could be probably a little bit more on the forefront rather than constantly just talking about the skills and trying to work in, the actual things that we have to do to get through in a game. I think I could focus a little bit more on that.
How about what's something you value that you want to bring to your team? What's one important value that you have in your life that you like to bring to your players?
That you put others first. That's probably number one for my team. You put the other teammates ahead of yourself. So if that means, helping someone that needs help with their equipment, or, letting someone else go in front of you in line, or going over and high-fiving the goalie if somebody just shot on her, anything like that. We just yourself, you're second. Your team comes first, and you put others before you. That's probably one of my biggest lessons.
Awesome. Ruben, how about yourself? I mean, what connects you to coaching? What do you feel you can improve on, and what's kind of one of your big values?
I'll try to remember all the questions. So the first one I go back to when I first started coaching at a very young age, 7th, 8th grade, at the local Boys and Girls Club. And I think I started coaching because I loved sports and I wanted to be involved in any way I could, whether it was as a player, a referee, or a coach. I really looked up to a lot of the coaches at the Boys Club, and I wanted to be like them. And there was a culture at I'm saying Boys Clubs because back then it was the Boys Club, it wasn't the Girls Club. There was a culture of mentoring and giving back to the younger kids. It was just, I certainly had older kids mentoring me, and so, I wanted to be part of that. And so I coached a 3rd grade basketball team. Question 2 was, you want me to move to question 2?
Yeah, please.
The question 2 was what values? What value?
Question 2 is what do you feel like you need to improve on as a coach?
I think what I need to improve on as a coach is conveying to the players and convincing them that I believe in them, that I think sometimes they don't know that I believe in them. And I think sometimes I give the impression that I doubt them. And so I really want to work on that.
Awesome. And what's your one value that you like to bring to your athletes?
Effort. Giving great effort all the time, consistently, all situations.
Awesome. And that's great. And I think, as Coach Edwards said, we have such a great opportunity here to have an influence on the athletes that we work with. And as we strive on to our next slide, just talking about PCA's model of coaching, the double goal coach, you're going to focus on striving to win. Obviously, you need to be teaching life lessons as well. And these life lessons, I think, are easier taught for you to understand that you have a connection to your athletes, so you can connect them to teaching life lessons where you're just not focused on the scoreboard or what it is. You can see the positive things that these athletes are doing that allows them to grow, be great athletes moving forward. So, and that is, I'm on 22 then, so I should be done, correct?
Kelly, are you there? Kelly, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog was barking.
I'm the one who usually does that. Oh, speaking of dogs, your dog's barking. Speaking of dogs, I left briefly. I don't know if you noticed, I left briefly. I looked down near my feet, and there was a dead bird there. And Kelly knows I got a new dog right around the beginning of January. It's so he's still a puppy. He's not 1 year old yet, and he's adorable. But the first time he's done that. And you guys probably know dogs better than me. I think he was like giving me a gift.
I think that's taking care of his master right there.
Yeah, you should have been praising him.
I gave him some nice nonverbal feedback. So anyway, sorry for taking us off track.
No, that's all right.
No, that's okay. How did you feel going through that, Brian?
It was different saying it out loud.
Yeah.
I think I went through the slides and kind of visually thought what I was going to say, but never really practiced out loud. So with a little bit of an audience, obviously there were some slip ups. or things maybe that I would have wanted to touch on were brought up. But I mean, it went okay. I felt like the rhythm was pretty good. There's a few times I messed up on the slides as well, but it was all right. I think for my first time saying it out loud.
That's I mean, I don't notice the slip ups at all because I always think of myself as being in the room when you're doing this, and I don't know what you're supposed to say or supposed to do. So if you do a little, slip up on a side, a slide or anything like that, if you just keep it flowing, nobody knows because no one knows what you're going to do. So I don't really.
For example, if you tell in your first workshop, you tell everybody that Jim Thompson is a sports psychologist, they're going to nod their heads. Okay. Now, Kelly and I know that Jim Thompson's not a sports psychologist, but in the big picture, that's a small. Now, on the other hand, if you go, oh shoot, I skipped a slide. Mm-hmm. Well, then we're going to know that you flipped up. But if you skip a slide and you just keep going, we're not going to know.
Yeah, definitely.
They're more worried, and we want you to focus more on the coaches, their needs, and we want you to focus more on what you're doing, and not the slides. The slides are really just there for a visual to keep structure to the workshop. But we're more worried. We're more interested in what you're bringing out of the coach. And so don't let the slides trip you up at all. It seemed like it feels to me like you have kind of two different personalities. Like you have the personality of Brian, and then you have the personality of Brian Trainer. And the Brian Trainer personality seems much more rigid and robotic versus the Brian right there that's like laughing, joking, like talking around.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I know this is kind of a strange format, and I'm sure when you have live people in front of you, you will be more relaxed and comfortable. But I think some of our best trainers that we have around the country, their personality in trainer mode and personality in conversation mode is very similar.
Okay.
We don't want you to put on this like different show because now you're a trainer, because I think the coaches really need to connect with you. Yeah. And the best way for a coach to connect with you is to go, okay, he's a coach like me. Like I got Brian. I understand this guy. He makes mistakes. He's been through all the things I've been through, and he's got some tips for me and some tools that are going to help me be a better coach. So that's just a suggestion right off the top. And I think what I picked that up from mostly was probably in the first 4 minutes, you said like and like 25 times. And then as you got rolling, you didn't. That really disappeared. But the first couple minutes you were very like, and that that'll work itself out. I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
Ruben, did you want to give Brian some feedback first, or do you want me to just keep going?
I'll give a little bit, Kelly, and then to turn it back over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian, I think you're in a really good place here, and I with Kelly's coaching, it's going to get all the stronger. I guess tying into what Kelly said, I thought the strongest parts of the workshop were the pieces that you brought to it. When your story about coaching and kids leaving the program, and then the kid told me it's not basketball, or it's not fun anymore. I thought that was a powerful moment. Brad Stevens, championship season, or strong season, no technical fouls. I mean, what an awesome little anecdote to bring to it. If your other quote, if you want to be a good motivator, then just shut up. It got my attention. I think you asked some really good questions too. The three questions that you asked, Kelly and I, we're a little cautious about throwing out a series of questions, and like, okay, I got, but I thought all of them were good questions, and I thought, so I just wonder if you could break those up. And, again, you only have two of us, but in a live workshop, I'm thinking, gosh, if I was going to use those three questions, I'd want everybody to answer them to somebody. So I think I would put them in pairs or small groups and say, here's question number one. You got 60 seconds. You're gonna tell your partner this. And then I say, time's up. Here's the next question. But I think the questions were, your questions are very meaningful questions, and your stories, the little bits you bring in, I think they have great substance, and they add value. Kelly and I have seen trainers who don't get that. They ask questions and it's like, okay, why'd you ask that question? Or, why'd you tell that story? I'm not sure the point, but in your case, it's all very meaningful. So before I turn it back to Kelly, the one thing I would say is, because you have all of that, Brian, I think on some of the slides and some of the content, I think you can be briefer, less detail there, and leave all the more space for your personal touch and the interaction that you create.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yep. Thanks. I think I agree. I agree with a lot of the feedback that Ruben articulated. Also, I had some of the same exact comments. I actually saw, I was going to say shorter on your explanation of the slides. I just watched a very, very experienced trainer last week, and he put up that slide that says, who is PCA, with the numbers. And he goes, who is PCA? He goes, check out those numbers. We've hit a lot of people. Moving on, and that was it. And I thought,
and that's fine, right? And that's fine.
Like, you just go up, you see a ton of numbers, and he's like, check out those numbers. Wow, we've reached a lot of people, and we want to keep reaching more. And I thought, well, that was, most trainers go through every line one at a time. And I thought, all right, that's how I'm doing that slide from now on, because nobody cares if it was 3.3 million or 5.2 million. They just want to know, like, wow, we're not just in my backyard here. Like, we're spreading, we're moving, and it's going to keep going. So that was just a comment that I was fresh in my mind when you were going through each data point on the slide, which they're there. I mean, they're there for a reason. But I would say that if you go a little bit briefer on the, reading of the slides and more into your experience. The reason I was saying I think you were more personable when you were talking was exactly for that reason. That story about about when you were coaching. I agree. I thought that was where I was like, wow, this is a great story. The Steve Kerr, Brad Stevens, all of that stuff. And your questions are excellent. I would actually encourage you to move some of your questions to the very beginning of the workshop, because the front of the workshop, the first 5 minutes of the workshop, is where you want to have these coaches actually think about your goal of the workshop. And I think one of the greatest questions is, why do you coach? I mean, what a fantastic question. And if you can pose that, right after text to sign in, have them stand up, have them get in a group, have them match up with somebody they don't know, whatever you want to do to get them matched up. But ask them, I want you to share with somebody why you coach. Because I guarantee 80% of those coaches have never been asked that question. And some of them may have been coaching for 20 or more years, and no one's ever asked them why you coach. So I thought that was great. I also like, what do you value? And I also love, what do you need to improve on as a coach? So I think that what do you coach and what do you value could be right off the top. Some trainers use questions right off the top, like, who was the coach that had the greatest impact on you? Or, some of those like bigger abstract questions to get them just thinking in the right direction, Brian. And I would stick that in the front in the very beginning, because that would get me thinking. And then you can always go back to that later on. Like, remember when I asked you why you coach? This is why you coach, to be a double goal coach, because we want the kids to really learn life lessons. That's the most important thing. And winning is going to be a byproduct of that. So you can keep coming back to it. When you get to, what do you value? You might have them write down what they value and not even share it yet. Just have them hold on to it for a little bit, so that as you go through the workshop, you can point back to, gosh, isn't that a great value? How many of you had that down? Something like that, just so they can refer back to it. But I love the questions a lot.
Okay.
And when you said, what do you need to improve on as a coach? I think that's huge, because that's where coaches are vulnerable and real and understand that they all make mistakes. I would, right there, if I was going to ask that question, I would give your answer first. I would say, for example, I've been coaching basketball, and one of the things that I really need to improve on, anytime you can be honest and vulnerable with the coaches and say, hey, this is a mistake that I made. I made this mistake for years. This is something I'm constantly reminding myself of in practice every day. That again is where you see all the coaches go, oh, okay. If this guy could admit where he still needs work, I can admit it too. And that's where the growth really happens and the behavior change really happens. So I would encourage you to throw in some of your mistakes, some of your vulnerable stories as well. I think that would help.
And Kelly,
yeah.
So Brian, Kelly and I usually don't recommend that the trainer give their perspective first. We usually don't, but this is different, because you're asking them to be vulnerable for a moment and self-critique. So that's where Kelly's flipped it. In that case, you go ahead and be vulnerable first.
Okay.
Kelly, you know what, Kelly, this is kind of an off-the-wall comment. A recent example of someone being vulnerable, and it wasn't a trainer, but Steve Young in his NYSA comments. Kelly, you know what I'm referring to when he talked about his struggles with anxiety. Anyway, Kelly and I were just shared an experience recently where, you know who Steve Young is, right? Yeah. So, in front of 650 people, he's telling us that, you know, he struggled with anxiety at one point in his life and needed to get help. And anyway.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. And also, I think too, I lost my train of thought where I just was. Sorry, Ruben. You were talking about, Brian, how if he's going to ask the coaches to share that. You go ahead and go first. Yeah. What I was going to say is, if you're ever going to ask coaches to share something about their own personal life or their personal coaching, I would agree with Ruben that having them turn and share with a partner or share in a small group is the best way to get them to do it.
Okay.
Because it's very hard when you ask a question that's kind of a tough question to answer. And, you know, if you look out to the crowd and you're waiting for somebody to give an answer, you might hear crickets for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
But anytime, and then the people that you don't pick on are like, "Whoo, thank goodness he didn't pick on me." But if you just have them, you know, turn to someone next to you, turn to someone in front of or behind you, just share for a minute, you know, what's something you need to improve on, you'll usually get everybody involved, and people aren't as worried about sharing that. So that's another tool. Yeah, I think, you know, you sprinkled in a lot of conversation. I usually keep track of like how many times you ask questions and how much time you're talking. And you did a really nice job at alternating those. So you didn't have like a long stretch of time where you were just doing all the talking. And I thought it was very conversational, Brian, which I really like. I think that's something that coaches will stay engaged, because you're just having a great conversation with us about this topic. And I also like the way that you said, do you have a reason why? Like, I forget what the question was, but, you know, Ruben said, yeah, I do. And you said, well, why? Why do you? You know, to follow up, a lot of times in workshops, you'll ask a question and the coaches will give you the answer that they think you want to hear. So it's always nice to challenge them a little bit more. Well, tell me more about that. Or why do you think that is? Or give me an example of that. Again, it just keeps the coaches on their toes, and it makes them feel like this is about them. And it is about their concerns, because you know all this information in the world, but if you don't connect with what the coach's needs are, you're going to waste 90 minutes talking about something that they might not relate to. So anytime you bring a section and say, tell me where the challenges are, tell me why this is hard for you. And then you are the magical person that brings them all the wonderful tools, which, you know, all the PCA tools and the ways that we have to handle it. But if you really show them
Brian, did we lose Kelly?
I think we did. Oh, she's back.
Sorry, my phone rang and I didn't know it shuts me out of the hangout. Yeah, again, just connecting to the coaches is huge, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think the more you practice what you're saying, and the more you just bring yourself into it and who you are, it's just going to be that much more impactful.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Me too.
So I give you 2 more chances to do this. Some people think 3 demos is way too much, but I think after doing the first one, you realize like, wow, it is kind of good to go through what I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
The pressure's not big. So I give you 2 more opportunities. The next ones, you can do any principle of your choice. So if you want to go through EAT, Emotional Tank, or Elm Tree of Mastery, or Honoring the Game, that's fine. And then for the final demo, I bring in some PCA staff. For you, I'd probably bring in like Minnesota people, I would think. How close are you from like Minneapolis area?
I'm closer to Chicago.
Kelly, usually it's Chicago.
Chicago. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry, Chicago. Yeah. So I would bring in the Chicago folks for your final, so they could get to know you and get to see you in action as well before we send you out with a trainer to a live workshop. So we have coming up next. Let me know when you're ready.
Sounds good. Do you want me to just email you, or just set it up now?
Yes. Nope, you can just email me and just give me a couple times, kind of like this time, and I usually can make it work. I'm pretty flexible.
Sounds great. I will email you then.
All right, thanks, Brian. And
yeah,
I'll send
thank you guys.
Just watch it back.
Have a good day.
Take care. You too.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Ruben. Thanks for joining me.